Alright, from Studio 111 via Radio Saigon, simulcast across the country. We have Blog Talk Radio, later Bflo360.com. This is Fanatic Radio, the Millennial Show. We are currently trying something new because the heads at Blog Talk Radio have performed taxation without representation on us. So, without further ado, my gardener, joined with me always, the notorious Ben Florence. I think this is the better way to go.
I enjoy it. I mean, love it. It's so much easier.
We'll do it. Some episodes just see some episodes are some college football. Bflo360.com. College football picks.
That's right.
As we'll talk. But Olympics finally over, and while I'm quite sad they're over, Flo, if you could sum it up in the Olympics in one word, what would it be?
Wow. My word would not be wow. What it's worth. Wow, that's a great question. Can I use a hyphenation? Can I use like a hyphenation to make two words into kind of one word? Could I cheat like that?
Yeah, you can.
All right. I'm going to say roller coaster. Only because, yes, that's two words, but only because, as we said, such a high in terms of the performance of Team USA. I mean, what was it, 127 medals? I mean, are you kidding me?
121.
121. I mean, that was, I don't know. That's an absurd number. I mean, it was spectacular. He had so many highs, and yet you have this one big fall that really kind of defined the last week of the games. Our good friend, the great Ryan Lochte, and his adventures at the gas station in Rio.
I think there are more falls, though. It's funny how
probably
the other day NBC was released. There's quotes from NBC execs blaming millennials for the bad ratings. Which every column that I've read has been like, no, it's all NBC's fault because of the way they made this. So, because I definitely want to talk about that because I don't know. Because you watched a good chunk of the Olympics, despite being at work.
Of course.
What I don't know. What was it? Because being from a media side, what was it that the reason why NBC ratings I think they're down like 17%, which everyone in Connecticut's like Chinese fire drill right now.
I know, and what's weird is that it was an Olympics in a TV-friendly time zone. I mean, they still had the time delays, but this is as time-friendly as you're going to get because then we got Pyeongchang, and we got Tokyo, and we got, I don't even know what 2022 is.
Beijing.
Beijing. So that's like all East Asia, and none of them is conducive to television. Not to mention, as I just mentioned, the Team USA, which generally drives the ratings, as you would expect. And I know NBC gets a lot of flack for focusing too much on Team USA, which, is here and there. But Team USA was spectacular. I mean, they dominated this Olympic Games. And that's why it's so odd to see these ratings. And especially because we had been talking for so long before about how Rio was just a fiasco. So I'm not certain why this happened compared to 4 years ago in London.
Well, it's crazy because they've been promoting this since like March, April, essentially. With those first commercials. I know just from my standpoint, our package with with Nissan and the few Olympians that we used through NBC. That started in like June, and that was already knee deep in trials. You have to go all the way back to about March when wrestling had their trials and NBC first started caring. I don't know. It's I think that is more on a sanity scale, because Lochte's, out in left field.
Oh God.
The ratings thing, it just baffles me, because you have all these records broken with the app, NBCOlympics.com, which I give 2 thumbs up. Already plugging or thumbs up, thumbs down, but it's a weird transition, and I think we saw. I mean, you can see this with in the mid 2000s, like 2010 era, when that sort of crept up, where I think this was the first sort of social media Olympics, because London kind of was, but that was still 5 years, still very fresh with like Facebook and Twitter. But this Olympics was the first Olympics where the app was big, the like athletes using Facebook Live and random stuff like that, and so you're seeing this very weird clash of old school and new school, which I don't think people at like every Fortune 500 company, if something doesn't do well, what do? You should blame the millennials. Is their attention span so high? Because, we mentioned it on the show last week, Sally Jenkins' piece about NBC and the ratings is just spot on. I think it's nowadays with live streaming and everything like that, with everything at your disposal, I think it all starts with the television. Because now with big events like this, you've got to show things live, because it's like you wouldn't tape delay the Super Bowl, no matter where it would be. So I think that really made me upset, and the fact that they blame millennials makes me really upset, because there were good events, but I think it's the suits at NBC. It's a weird paradox that the heads don't want to admit mistakes. I think this is the Olympics where no one wants to admit mistakes.
That's right.
And that goes from everyone from like the USOC to the IOC to NBC, all the C's, from C to Shining C.
I like that.
And no one wants to take the blame. It's like no one wants to take responsibility anymore. And you could see that it was chosen as the games, because this was the games where someone had to bite the bullet. Because I look at the cities now that would have been potential hosts, and it's like, it's funny because Tokyo was one of the finalists, and then it was a pity move to give them 2020. It's like, oh, you didn't get 2016, so we'll give you the next one 4 years later. I look at Chicago, and there's been Chicago Tribune articles saying that would have been a mess, considering how much crime and violence in Chicago, and the price tag that city. Madrid, they're in no position to host the games. I think it's just a shoot from the hip reaction. And NBC was so concerned with certain things that they're losing their grasp on the Olympics, because in the days of like cable television and the internet, anyone can like anything at any given time. When back in like the 80s and 90s, everyone tuned into track. From the Winter Olympics case, everyone wants to watch figure skating. I don't know, because people are like, "Oh, we're old-fashioned," but no, we're in our 20s. That's why we're the Millennials show.
That's right.
The good Olympics. It's funny because it was athletically, it was a great Olympics. Everything else around it was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. I think it is an interesting point about the ratings, that what we saw this time, which we hadn't seen in years past, is this year you had Olympics going up in essence against the Olympics. You had the action on NBC, but you also had action going on at the same time in NBCSN, and I think also CNBC would also have some action as well. So that didn't happen 4 years ago because nothing was live, and NBC for the most part was live, or NBCSN for mostly was live for their production. But even beyond that, it wasn't like NBCSN was like, drawing these. I mean, they drew really good numbers from what I think I know. But yeah, again, so NBC, and then it's. And I'm not somebody that struggles to find words what to say much, but the rating struggles I just don't get, and I don't get how it gets any better going into Tokyo, even with Shinzo Abe turning into Mario at the closing ceremony, which was awesome. That was fantastic, bar none.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, how would you fix it? Because it's like, does it get better, or are people just going to watch the Olympics less and less?
I think that may be. Honestly think that may be part of it. I think that. Olympics is obviously certainly a big deal, but I think a lot of I think the tape delay stuff has definitely burned some people, and I think that especially when stuff's live on the East Coast and the Central Time Zone, and then it's still on tape delay in the Mountain Time Zone and the West. I know that the affiliates out there want it, and a lot of people put a little too much flack on NBC for it, and not enough on the affiliates, because the affiliates, for the most part, they don't want to lose local newscasts in early evening, and they still want to have the primetime business. They don't want to have to fill primetime with, 3 hours of Seinfeld reruns. So, and I don't even the Seinfeld. But as to how to fix it, and again, they're going to have to, we'll definitely see a bunch of tape delay going forward. And I think that also the fact that live streaming online is, especially for this, going to get cranked up even more because, probably nothing is going to be live. So, yeah, I'm not certain what the fix is. Maybe they try to go even harder and more all in on the Team US. Maybe try to branch out a little bit, focus less on the U.S. It's really kind of a quandary. I'm not fully certain what they're going to do to try to stem the ratings tide.
Because I don't think the U.S. is ever going to have an Olympics like they have. Because I think this was the last chance of a great Olympic showing. But that's really weird to think that the sky's the limit for us. With NBC, these next 3 games is a blessing for them because it's tape delay. As we talked on previous shows, and the games were in Beijing and Athens and London. We had the luxury. This was sort of NBC's wake-up call of, the old model's not working, especially if it's in our backyard. But from an athletic standpoint, I found it very weird that we like we mentioned at the top of the show, no matter how you spin it, we dominated that Olympics.
Oh yeah,
we kicked ass, and it felt kind of good. But it's so weird because there are certain things. I think this is just from Joe Fan, where there are things that we used to dominate but don't anymore. But then again, it's I don't know what it is, because it's everyone says the world's catching up with us, but when you look at the medal count and how the athletes performed, it's the rest of the world is there's parity among the rest of the world. With China, Great Britain, France, Italy, you got Hungary, Korea, Japan. They're sort of Australia, if you want to throw them in the mix. They're sort of becoming even. But why is the U.S. almost doubling the second place person?
Yeah, I mean,
are we doing something right?
I know it's so hard to say these days, in these times, but I think we are doing something right. I think the fact that, you look at a gymnastics team, one of the most dominant performances I can remember at an Olympics. You look at swimming, Michael Phelps, who's like 80 years old, still tremendous. Katie Ledecky, like, lapping the field. I mean, how often do you see that? Or somebody just smashing world records. But I think it's going to be interesting. Now, who really knows if this is going to be Phelps' last Olympics? I really can't see him at like 35 or 36 or however old he is going to be in Tokyo. I just can't see it. And then without Phelps, who kind of becomes the new, like, de facto face of Team USA? Because the thing is with gymnastics, those you don't always see repeat performances that often in that. So who is going to be the true face? And it's hard to have a true face from, like, basketball, because basketball is such a team sport where you don't have the one guy who's truly extraordinary above the rest, like, substantially. So I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe there was, I talked about it before. Maybe there was Phelps burnout, but one thing I know in this country is that we do not get tired of winning enough. And so maybe we were too dominant. I mean, I still just I can't figure it out. I'm at a loss for words. And again, that is a rarity.
That's crazy because you look at, like, track and field, where, like I said, old school, we would dominate the sprints, and now that's kind of gone by the wayside, and that's really sad. But we picked up medals in events that, like, we shouldn't. Mass Entrance won the 1500. No American has done that since 1908.
That's right.
Why? So I'm thinking, what have we been doing wrong? And of course, talking to people like of that generation, i.e., friends and family, they've said, "Oh yeah, it's because we don't have the Soviets or the East Germans to compete against." But there's sports. I don't know. It's like men's team that got bronze. The guys I worked with that came down to Dallas over 4th of July, and half the team's like our age. It's like the future's bright, because it's just funny because there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal about China, how it just seemed like this Olympics seems like a failure to them, considering they only have won like 70 medals. It's the worst medal count ever in the country's history since they joined. In '84, when Mao finally was dead, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can compete in the Olympics now." Gymnastics didn't win. Apparently, gymnastics didn't win a single medal in China, and that's like our fierce rivals.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things that this article and that the Chinese news has blamed is they cashed all in on Beijing, and so those athletes peaked in 08-12, yet there's no pipeline. There's nothing new. And of course, they're also subject because everyone thinks the swimmers are doping, and then new sports where they can't really hang, like track cycling. But it's really strange. This is one of the strangest phenomenons because, like, it's a small world, but we as a country have, like, never looked better on the athletic field. It's like a really weird mix. Like swimming, you got old school guys. But then, Ledecky's 19 years old. And Missy Franklin didn't even do that well, and she's supposed to be like the golden child of this Olympics. Everyone else has been won by, college kids, which I love. It's like Katie Baker and Lily King. They're sophomores and juniors in college, and it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing so well in the Olympics? Like track and field, you got Clayton Murphy just graduated from Akron. He's 22 years old. It's really strange because it's like what the Olympics should be, and as mentioned before, with new sports being added, the U.S. could potentially win like 150 medals, like 200 medals in Tokyo, which is absolutely absurd considering everyone sort of like uses our country as a punching bag now. But it's great. I was so pumped. It's like basketball is a great example of that. Team USA won the gold medal. Congrats to them, by the way. But when I watched the World Championships in 2014, the games were close, but the U.S. won by 30 against Serbia. And then watching this Olympics, even with the close calls, every other game was close. You had like Tony Parker hitting a shot at the buzzer to, I think beat Serbia actually, and then Australia Serbia. That was a lopsided game, but the close game like Brazil upset Spain in the early parts of the preliminaries. USA almost lost 3 times. And other countries, they have great matchups, and yet when we it's weird. It's like when we try, we're amazing, or it's like is it either we're doing well on the sport performance side, or is it the rest of the world is doping catching up with the rest of the world?
I think doping is. I've never been somebody who wanted. I just assume that players are doping, even when there probably is evidence for it. Especially because with the Olympics, especially for so many years, it was truly the wild, wild west when it comes to doping. But I think that with the team aspect, I think there's definitely a point to be made that the U.S. in so many of these team sports has just become so dominant. I mean, we always focus on men's basketball, and that really goes back to the Dream Team. But this women's basketball team was just destroying everybody. I mean,
absolutely.
It was. I mean, that team was awesome, and it just goes to show that even if you put together a team of NBA All-Stars, they can still have a bunch of feisty contests. Even against guys that their best NBA players are not exactly all-stars, frankly, but guys that have been playing around together forever. But then in the women's side, you get a team of all NBA All-Stars, and you're just demolishing everybody. So I think the team aspect, I think that definitely plays a part. But, that theory with China putting everything in the basket for Beijing, I think is actually, and I hadn't thought about that, is a really good point. Especially because Beijing was really kind of China's. I mean, everybody knows about China, but it was almost like opening themselves up to the world. Truly, you had a spectacular opening ceremony, one of the most memorable I can ever remember, and they really pushed and gave the U.S. hard. I believe they won more gold, but I think the U.S. won more overall medals. Yeah. So. And I'm sure to them that was definitely a success. But I think the fact that they've fallen so precipitously, wow, I can't pronounce that word, fallen so sharply really kind of gives that theory some credence. So I think that, it's probably a combination of both. But, the U.S. team-wise really just destroying the world. And I love it, frankly, as an American.
Yeah. But it's funny because now you're starting to see countries that cash in on certain events. I think because other than like basketball, there's not many sports where we're like all in. Maybe soccer, but we talked about them last week as being a disgrace to the nation, and then I guess swimming to an extent, because. We're always going to be searching now for the next Phelps, I think we're consistently good at sports, and as much as I hate them for the pure greed, the NCAA, it works. It is really strange, especially on the women's side. The women won 60% of our medals, or something like that, where it's because. Women's water polo won back-to-back golds. That's a result because women's water polo is an NCAA sport. An absolutely great job. Field hockey, didn't win a medal. That entire team was from ACC schools. Women's basketball, women's soccer. Gymnastics has their Caroli Ranch. Even though it's not NCAA. Women's volleyball won a bronze medal. Men's volleyball, NCAA sport. Wrestling, Kyle Snyder won gold, 97 kilos, and he's a junior at Ohio State. So it's funny that we're seeing the college system actually work, which I never thought I'd say, because, ironically, transitioning to the next part of the show is college football, which gets like billions of dollars apart from these little Olympic sports. But we are consistently good. A country that's not catching up to us, but it's on its way is Great Britain. I was reading a BBC article that said that they had a higher success rate of athletes to sports than the U.S. did, which I found was very interesting, because they're dominating track cycling. They have Mo Farah this year, but then they have athletes that kind of doing what we're doing, that they're great athletes and they're medaling. Even though Jeff Henderson won the gold medal in long jump for the U.S., Greg Rutherford won bronze, is defending gold medalist. Jessica Ennis-Hill won either bronze or silver in the heptathlon. Well, our guy, my boy Ashton Eaton, won gold in the decathlon. So they're starting to, Great Britain actually beat us in field hockey. So while they're focusing on like the small sports to develop, which is weird. Like, Britain's doing well in boxing. But we're doing great with being consistent, and you're seeing some of those big countries follow in our footsteps. But now I think the talent pool is stretched so far. Kenyans always have good runners. They always have great middle-distance, long-distance runners. I guess apparently now the Jamaicans are fabulous at sprints, after seeing especially the women's 100 and 200. Which I'm not going to say Elena Thompson is doping, but she came out of nowhere. I'll just say that's pretty much it. And like the fighting sports, all the ex-Soviet nations are good at boxing and wrestling, like Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. It's just a weird trend, but it makes me happy to know that like we're doing something right, and that we're like consistent. So this is a PSA to the NCAA. Please continue to give love to Olympic sports, because on the world stage we're like feared. I mean, look at the medal count. Even though like we can't,
I love it.
Even though we can't win a 100-meter dash, we look good. We're the athletes in this past, especially just in track and field alone. How like Sam Kendricks, who got I believe it was bronze in pole vault, was the first guy since like '92. As I mentioned, Centrowitz was the first guy to win gold since 1908, not even 08. So it's like it's a revolution. I think as more people are starting, and I don't know, I think more people are starting to realize that like they can't make it. And people, it's like the athletes, like the kids of our generation, because that's where most of the age groups coming from, is like those late '80s, '90s babies are now Olympians. And, the generation younger, they're starting to figure out that, they're not going to make it to the NBA, they're not going to make it to the NFL. Compete in track and field and you can win a gold medal. Especially when you see kids on the college level do it, that makes it even better, which is ridiculous. But of course, before we go to college football, Ryan Lochte as a national disgrace.
Oh God.
Where do we close the book on this? And what are your predictions of what happens to that guy?
He lost. I think he lost all of his endorsers, which is always very good to do in such a quick span. The fact that of how quickly his story changed, that he had the interview on the beach with Billy Bush, and then he had the phoner with Matt Lauer, and the story had changed then. And then just the story continued to change, and then he had the final interview with Matt Lauer, and he faked the tears and all that. The guy is, the guy's a joke. I mean, you saw they mocked him on Colbert, which was so funny. They had like him mock interview by Colbert, and Colbert just substitute question. Basically, every Lochte answer just came down to, well, I was intoxicated or I was drunk. And I mean, how they spliced it, and it was so funny. But I mean, because here's the thing. If the guy was – I mean, the guy is a great swimmer. I mean, let's be frank. But he's Phelps' age, So seeing him in Tokyo was unlikely as is. And again, the guy isn't in a class of Phelps. He's an Olympic, caliber swimmer, but he's not a guy that's so great that you're willing to be like, you know what? We'll make the excuse. The guy's an idiot, did some dumb stuff, but we like to win gold, so there you go. He's not that guy, and he never has been that guy. So really, Ryan Lochte is basically going to fade into irrelevance. He may appear on the Celebrity Apprentice in a couple of years, have a reality show somewhere, but he's just going to fade into irrelevancy as far as from what I can guess.
So I think it's funny because I think swimming, he's like in the perfect sport to have this kind of mishap. Because if it was like an NBA player doing it, he'd have the entire season of scrutiny and just be mentally broken down pulp. It's funny because he actually was the one, I think he was the one, like, after one of the relays that him and Phelps were together, he, like, patted Phelps on the back and was like, let's go to Tokyo. So, like, the thing is with him and this whole fiasco, I'm sure because he lost all his endorsements, I'm sure USA Swimming will put some kind of temporary, like, suspension. But then after that, he's, like, in the shadows, unless you are a massive swimming aficionado, which I'm not, sadly to admit. But he could, I think, I would not be surprised if he made at least an attempt to try for Tokyo. 2020 trials, he will surface and come back. The big thing to watch out for, though, is I believe it's 2017 Worlds. I don't know where it is, but Swimming Worlds, if he is chosen for that World Championship team, I think that is when Lochte will reemerge. But in today's day and age, things completely, like, go beyond the spectrum of reality that, he'll always be stuck with this, but it's like, we haven't seen him. Because one thing we've learned, winning cures all. Ray Lewis could go off and kill someone, win a Super Bowl, and then everyone's saying, oh, he's going to the Hall of Fame. So I'm curious to see that. He will be back, but because he's in swimming, it's him looking at shadows, which will possibly save him, which is really sad because Olympic sports, you have all this great momentum, but then our country just kind of takes a back seat to it. But closing out our Olympic love and everything, what was your best moment of the games?
Wow, I think that for me there were so many great moments, but I never thought I'd be so excited to see a guy in a mustache wearing an AU polo celebrating like a little kid more than I saw on Saturday night when Matt Senchowitz Jr. won the gold, as you mentioned, in the 1,500 meters, the first American to do that since William Howard Taft was running for president against William Jennings Bryan, his third go at it, the 08 election. And to say, first off, seeing anybody rep AU was awesome. I was actually in a conversation with somebody, and I literally interrupted it, start like going crazy that Senchowitz won. So I love that. For me, not only because it strikes me personally, because it's AU, our beloved alma mater, I must say. But the fact that the CUS, and we're talking about how successful this Olympics was, I think that shows that we won gold in something we haven't won gold in 108 years. I think that was awesome. For me, that was spectacular.
Yeah, in terms of overall, it's that. It's those weird records. Because like swimming will always dominate swimming, will always win medals in certain events in track. But it's all the like small things we did. We'll always win in basketball. It's like how Kayla Harrison got back-to-back judo medals. And up until 2012, we've never won a judo medal. And now she's got 2. And we came away with 7. We're like winning medals in different sports, which means, like the pot of money is working with all these little sports. But besides the Olympic flame going out and this sort of dumpster fire of a Rio Games over, and everyone's sort of living in La La Land, go back to their real lives, or forever be locked in a the Inception, the spinning top of Rio forever. I don't know. There's a lot of great moments. I mean, Usain Bolt winning 9 medals in sprints. It was like a good thing, but a sad thing, because I know it's like when he's gone. Will we go back to winning medals, or will there just be another Jamaican guy, right on its coattails that will give us grief for 8 years? My favorite moment, though, had to have been women's 5,000, where the girl from New Zealand and Abby D'Agostino, they collided on the track, fell down. The American girl helped the New Zealand girl up. Which is funny because congrats to them, they got the IOC Olympic Sportsmanship Award, but in light of everything where the Brazilian fans were just booing the crap out of everyone, especially us.
Yeah.
At every event, which really pissed me off. The pool was green. No one went in the water. Everyone who went in that water is going to get sick from about 10 months to a year from now. Just you wait. They won't admit it now. But it's funny when rowing, usually when rowers win, they're splashing water. Especially when our women's 8-1, they're splashing water. And the tradition is when they get their medals or celebrate, they all jump in the water. And as soon as they won, they're just like hands in the air, hands on their laps. They're not touching that water, which is funny because every athlete sort of dissed all the reports. Yet I didn't see anyone go in the water.
Yeah.
So, or any of my friends that with the Olympics that I know, no pictures on the beach, or if not, it was in and out. No going in the water. So they obviously knew something was there. But in light of every disastrous thing that happened, the fact that two girls that don't even know each other, helped each other to the finish line. It's like the Olympic spirit's there. As much as I kind of thumbs down the refugee team, considering I don't know why they had to have their own team, why didn't they just go under the IOC flag? It's good to see all this humanitarian stuff. But so that's probably my true heart-wrenching moment. Centrowitz winning the 1500 was great, as you mentioned, seeing Centrowitz Senior just go berserk in the crowd. But then from a basketball perspective, Team USA winning, Coach K is not going to be with us, and considering that if it wasn't for him and Jerry Colangelo, who knows where USA basketball would be after 2004. We'd probably be using Scott Skiles as a coach.
Hey, we love
Scott Skiles. Scott Skiles. Or we'd probably bring someone out of retirement. So it's I don't know.
Don Nelson.
Yeah. I think it lives out of some random house in Hawaii. SI article, where are they now? And I didn't know this. I thought he had just moved there. He's lived there for 15 years. Because when you go back and listen to his Hall of Fame speech, he's like, "Yeah, He actually talks to me. He's like, "I'm going to move to Hawaii." He's like, "You got to come find me to talk to me." And I was like, "I want to have a beer with that man."
That's right.
I was like, "I'm not tight with his son, but I've met his son before. But I want to meet the man, the inventor of Nelly Ball, and I want to be him. I want to be that old man that retires to Hawaii." Which is hilarious. And speaking of Hawaii, it's coming up in our college football preview. But stay tuned. Once again, you're listening to Fanatic Radio on blogtalkradio.com.
This is Fanatic Radio.
Nobody cares about Rutgers, let's be realistic.
It's the reason you wake up on game day and put on your team's colors.
Fanatic Radio on
Blog Talk Radio.
here on Fanatic Radio. My Gardner Ben Florence. You can listen to our Olympics recap, the podcast on iTunes, Bflo360.com. Great content. Flo is keeping us updated with all the announcers. It was just funny. Speaking of announcers, I think it was my dad who brought it up, how he also didn't know that Thursday Night Football was split between CBS and NBC. Because we saw those commercials, and he was really confused. And I was saying, well, yeah, they split it because that's where the whole Twitter thing got involved, and we still hate Thursday Night Football because it's not Sunday, and how it throws such a monkey wrench into the schedule. But speaking of Thursday Night Football, and where I'm going with this is, my dad and I were talking about, imagine if my mom was like, what if Jim Nantz was doing the Olympics? Because she was saying, like, at times Costas got really annoying, and that, like, some of their coverage was, especially primetime, was really bad. And I said, be thankful that Jim Nantz is not doing it. But then I thought, because his ego, the Europeans that work at the IOC's egos are bigger than Nantz's.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it, I was like, yeah, there's just no way. But my thing is, we talked about a little bit on the back end, the first part of this show, but what's going on with NBC, it's weird to say, but you got to get, like, not guys like us involved, but I think people assume to look at the bad side of things. Yeah, it was down 17%, but what isn't down 17%? It's not like the Super Bowl or the Final Four where it's like a one-day event. You're trying to keep the masses entertained for 2 weeks. I think that's a struggle. Because the reason the NFL is such a success is it's once a week, boom, your team plays, and it's done. The Olympics, you have to sort of get everyone psyched for so many events. Yet, we'll get to the end of the show because it's college football time as next week. Labor Day weekend, always a time for college football.
Yes.
Go to Bflo360.com, look at Flo's college football predictions. We kind of touched on it earlier. We talked about the disastrous face of the Big 12, and we'll get to that later in our discussion. But I want to point out, I was looking at the Sports Illustrated college football preview, and my regional cover is Gary Ward Jr. from Houston, who I thought actually declared for the draft. I didn't think he actually came back. But looking at the guys that were featured on the cover, this is one of the few years where, other than Deshaun Watson, I don't know the guys on the cover. Is it bad that, like, we're knowing less and less of these college football stars, or is that kind of a good thing?
I think that's a good question. I know a lot of the key guys, and I believe, I have to double check. No, I did get the Michigan cover with Jabril Peppers on the cover, the star do-it-all defensive guy for Michigan. But I think it's one of those things too where, especially in the summer like this, we're focused all in on the Olympics, and thus we're not kind of gearing up as much yet for college football. I do want to make a quick point. I want to diverge slightly. You mentioned Jim Nantz on the Olympics. People will remember the last Olympics that was not on NBC was Nagano 1998, and the primetime host in 1998 was Jim Nantz. So I just
young Jim Nantz. Wasn't he like in 30s back then?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Jim Nantz is only like, I don't even know if he's 60 yet. Jim Nantz is 57 years old. He's been the CBS's lead guy for now almost 20 years, basically. But I mean, it's still not as young. I don't think people realize, for example, and I promise I'll try to rein it back, how young Joe Buck is. Joe Buck is 47 years old. Joe Buck was doing NFL games when NFL came to Fox when he was 25 years old. I mean, I'm 23 years old. I think you're 24. So that means that basically in a year we're going to be calling NFL games, I believe. I think that's how it works.
We have to. Move aside. Yeah. Step aside, Dick Stockton. We're coming for you.
Yeah, I hope so. But with the college football stuff, it's always something to where, I think that's a great point. Who was the last preseason favorite to win the Heisman? I just thought of this off the top of my head, and I can't, because we knew about Watson a year ago, but was he really the preseason favorite? No. Last year.
Who won it last year?
Wasn't it? It was Watson, right? Was it Watson? Yes, it was. It was. No, it was not. What
No,
am I
it's
saying?
Derrick Henry, the guy from Alabama.
What? Yeah, what am I saying? I am way off. Shows how little I know.
You know,
Yeah,
I don't. It's funny because with like the NFL rule, and I looked at this year's draft, and so many guys came out as a junior. It's like the NFL's turning into the NBA, where we normally expect guys to go 4 years, but now you got guys like Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, 90, but like almost everyone drafted in the top 10 of this year's draft is a junior, still with a year left. So they haven't even reached, they like just past their 20s, like just 21, where you're seeing all these sort of young, not immature, but some of them are immature players going to the NFL. And so it leaves college football, there's no one really talks about, other than like the running back from LSU, who I believe is a sophomore this year.
the 4-9.
Yeah, no one has like major hype over. Oh, and like football, it's weird because you could have like a phenomenal freshman, but then he could just suck the next 3 years, or become so great that he's just dips out and becomes average. So the last was Tebow. I think Tebow had to have been the last like hyped up guy for something, and that's dating us way back. That's like 10 years ago. Because Cam Newton, I don't know. He was someone that I don't think many people like saw him as like a Heisman favorite. Johnny Manziel certainly came out of nowhere. But he was someone that people already knew about because he had such a great freshman year, redshirt freshman year, and won as a sophomore. Because a lot of it is the past winners have all been running backs and running backs or quarterbacks. So it's like unless there was like a quarterback that came out of nowhere and won. Because you have like the USC days when Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart won there. It's like, oh yeah, we already knew this team was going to be good. It's not like in college basketball where it's like Doug McDermott is going to be the guy to watch out for, and people are like, who is Doug McDermott? And all of a sudden, this guy scores like 25 a game. He's Doug McBuckets and helps Creighton to the tourney. Or like this past year where people are like Denzel Valentine. It's like, why is he a good player? He stayed 4 years. He's ready to rock and roll. And it's like Buddy Hield had a great year last year. So now he's going to be a senior this year, ready to drop like 20 a game. College football is very weird like that. Because you have like Josh Rosen being the face of UCLA, and he's a sophomore. I don't know. It's a weird trend in college football. It's like I kind of want guys to stay all 4 years. I don't like these guys leaving. Because just imagine how good Ohio State would be this year if they kept the people intact. And like looking at your preview, you don't even have Ohio State winning the Big Ten, which is amazing. Because it's like Urban Meyer. It's always like Urban Meyer somehow finds a way. I don't know. It's really weird. But the best part about Labor Day weekend, and now, which I'm glad is, as much as I hate the college football playoff with a passion, and the people that are affiliated with it, because they're all morons.
That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. They're all people that have worked on like host committees for Super Bowls. So clearly nothing to do with television, media, promotion, none of that. It's really strange. The fact that the building is up the street from my house makes me even more mad. But because of this college football playoff, it's made college football exciting from bookend to bookend. Because just going into Labor Day weekend, there's all these great games. You got SC coming down to Jerry World to take on Bama.
Oh yeah.
You got OU going down to Houston to take on the Cougars that everyone thinks Gary Ward is the next Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but what matchups are you most looking forward to?
I think that the why am I drawing a blank on it? The Florida, there's that big. Why am I drawing a blank on this? I just looked this up. Florida State playing in the Citrus Bowl, which is kind of awesome. Florida State is hosting. What is it? Who is it again?
Oh, they're playing LSU. That's the one in Lambeau, right?
No, oh yeah, well that's awesome too. I mean, as a Packers fan, that's just spectacular. But
Wisconsin plays LSU at Lambeau, I know, but I think FSU plays Ole Miss out there.
is it Ole Miss? Let me pull it up. I got the schedule right here.
Because the reason why I'm going with this, because before, we wouldn't get good college football matchups
It is Ole Miss,
until
yeah.
like week 4.
That's right. So, but there's a number of juicy matchups. We that kind of have brought back. You know, we used to have the huge matchups week 1, and then that kind of went away, especially once they expanded to 12 games, which are so unnecessary. Although we love it because we love more football, but like you get this Ole Miss FSU game, and you get them on neutral sites too. I mean, that's not really a neutral site. I mean, Florida State's going to pack the joint. But and then you got, you know, you mentioned USC, take it up Bama. That's going to be awesome. But I'm going to throw a game out there, another primetime game on Sunday on ABC, September 4th. Notre Dame going down to Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium to take on Texas. Notre Dame, as they should be, will be the favorite. Notre Dame is a very good team. They look like a top 10 team. They have a schedule. If they manage it, even with a loss, they can get to the playoff. They got some good players, and they got 2 good quarterbacks. And now returning on Malik Zaire and the other guy. But it's really Charlie Strong. It's been a difficult rebuilding process because it was a mess when Mac Brown left. Retired, was fired, whatever you want. So that was a mess. This is the kind of game that Charlie Strong, it's a feather he would definitely love to put in his cap to show that Texas is on the way back. I think Notre Dame will win that game. But if even if the Longhorns look strong under the lights at home against the Fighting Irish, a rematch of some of the great Cotton Bowls in the 70s, including when Joe Montana played at Notre Dame, that could show potentially that maybe the Horns are back.
And it's funny because speaking of the Big 12, you have OU winning the conference, which I wholeheartedly back you up on. But are you feeling that the Big 12 is like losing momentum? You know, there's the whole thing of Baylor, and like we have question marks by Texas, and can Gary Patterson continue to recruit? And with all this distraction of that new 11th, 12th, maybe 13th, 14th team, that's going to be on the back of everyone's mind. Does it make the Big 12 team, you know, more inferior to the rest of the college football landscape?
Well, I think that the fact that, you know, we look at the Big 12 and it's frankly a bunch of teams, especially at the top, that play all offense and throw the ball over the yard and score just zillions of points, but nobody plays defense. So you've seen them. They really haven't had a lot of success in the college football playoff thus far. So there's that. But I think that, you know, you look at this Oklahoma team, a really good team, but again, they didn't play any defense last year. And if they don't play defense, that leaves them susceptible to a number of teams in the conference because all of them, for the most part, except for Texas, Kansas State is really not that good. Teams that can score a bunch of points. But as you mentioned, the big question is Baylor. Baylor has the talent to compete for the college football playoff, win the conference, and get to or just get to a New Year's Day 6 bowl. But we really have no idea what to expect of them. The offseason was a disgrace. What happened with Art Briles was disgraceful. All the allegations, Ken Starr is a total buffoon. That guy's a total jackass. So the whole Baylor thing was really just disgraceful and disgusting.
That's really bad. When you look at it and look at the aftermath, it's really bad. And Briles is like,
oh yeah, it's
oversaw, criminal actions.
Absolutely, and basically it's because it's a program that was a football joke. Art Briles came in, and then all of a sudden They had the big stadium on the Brazos River. Art Browse is winning a ton of games there. And all of a sudden is now a big-time football school. And they have the mentality of win at all costs. They brought in a good coach and, importantly, a good man in Jim Grobe. But it's so hard to imagine. Like, this team could go 11-1, and as I said, they could very easily go 7-5. Because Jim Grobe has really no relationship with these players. He's not a spread offense guy. And he hasn't coached anywhere in a few years. So, and I mean, he was coaching at Wake Forest, and I mean, he took Wake Forest to an Orange Bowl of all programs. This was around the time when Kansas went to an Orange Bowl. So it wasn't that long ago. But
yeah, I mean, with the great Aqib Talib as like their star player.
Absolutely. And who was that quarterback's name? That guy was Todd Reesing.
Oh God!
And then they had that insane game against.
I know. Who think is my next door neighbor now?
Is he really?
No, but it's like he's such a nobody. They had Briscoe, a great wide receiver. It was like a 3-man team, and they ran the tables in the Big 12. That's when Mizzou was in the Big 12.
That's right, and that Mizzou team was really good. That Mizzou team in the Border War beat Kansas, but then Mizzou then, as the top-ranked team in the country, played in the Big 12 championship game, lost to Oklahoma, and then Kansas got to the Orange Bowl. Kansas didn't play anybody that year. I mean, that team schedule was a complete joke. But, again, Kansas, which is one of the worst teams in all of college football, not that long ago was in the Orange Bowl, which is crazy thing. But, yeah, but Baylor and the Big 12, I mean, even this Oklahoma team, I do have them in the playoff. I think they're good enough. If Baker Mayfield stay healthy, if Bob Stoops can get a little defense going, I think they are good enough to win the college football playoff. There's just no teams this year, frankly, in totality, that I really look at. I mean, I picked Clemson, but Clemson I don't think is as good as they are a year ago. And so much depends on if Deshaun Watson can push the action again and be as good as he was when I mistakenly called him the Heisman Trophy winner. Not to mention, they got Florida State in Tallahassee. I mean, that game is for the conference, so that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Which is funny because, Ohio State won it 2 years ago. Alabama sort of brought back its dominance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an SEC school, you're already playing in a tough enough conference, and you already have sort of the voters or the committee's ear. Why risk it playing big games then? Because I'm just looking at the list of SEC schools playing like those opening weekends. Like I said, we mentioned Bama SC at Jerry World, Ole Miss Florida State in the Citrus Bowl. LSU goes up to Lambeau to play Wisconsin. Georgia plays North Carolina in the Georgia Dome. Tennessee plays Va-Tech at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Oh yes, that's right. Oh, that's gonna be awesome.
That's coming up. That's coming up soon.
Bruton.
I know, right? Bruton's gonna be like sitting on the jumbotron. That new makeshift jumbotron they put in the middle of the race. As NASCAR fans in like a frenzy, but then it's like NASCAR fans are kind of college football fans at heart. But watching like the rain delayed coverage, it looked really weird. Just having this giant electronic cube hanging in the last great Coliseum. But if you're an SEC school, you're already in the best conference. You gave them, so you said they were the best conference. Why risk playing these sort of high-profile games if you know you're just going to get just as good, if not better, competition in conference play?
I think it's part of it, although we did see it before the college football playoff, but the college football playoff is now, it's so much different than the BCS because it's actual people watching games. They look at and I bet they look at these games, you see a dominant performance. That if Alabama just kicks the crap out of USC I think is good, not great, but I don't think anybody's great at Pac-12. But they kick the crap out of a team like USC on a neutral field. That's going to look very strong. It'll be a feather in their cap going forward. But I think also part of it is arrogance. I think the SEC, rightly, for the most part, thinks that they can take anybody on at any time, anywhere, and beat them and win on the field. On the road game, certainly at home, at a neutral site, I think that because the SEC has been, and I was talking with people at work about this. Everyone wants to hate on the SEC because the SEC has been so dominant for so long, especially because Nick Saban. I remember before Nick Saban, Alabama was like where almost where like Georgia kind of was under Mark Richt. They were winning 8-9 games. They weren't winning championships under Mike Shula.
It was like Brody Croyle as the quarterback.
Chiefs legend Brody Croyle. But that's the thing, and I think people also just don't realize they're going on another tangent. Even these like superpowers in college football. I mean, Notre Dame. Well, I don't know why I brought up Notre Dame, but Notre Dame hasn't been Notre Dame in a long time. Texas, before Mac Brown, was very inconsistent. After Mac Brown, they've had a rebuild. USC before Pete Carroll was winning like 8 games a year. Oklahoma in the mid-90s, they had a couple years where they were like 5-6 before Bob Stoops. It just goes to show that, even the most powerful programs in all of college football. Remember when Miami was the elite program and kicking everybody's ass? They made not one but 2 30 for 30s about them. And now they're effectively and also ran in the ACC. It just goes to show that Florida State at the end of Bobby Bowden, Florida with under Ron Zuck, and then after Meyer with our boy Will Muschamp. It just goes to show that even the superpowers of college football, you don't just win a ton of games out of nowhere. So I think people also need to realize that. With some of these, because Texas was always like, Charlie Strong is nobody. We got to get Nick Saban. I'm like, well, of course you want Nick Saban. You can throw $1 zillion at it. But you got to realize, some schools are so used to being great that they don't again with USC, and now they're kind of mid-tier Pac-12. They're still used to winning championships and being dominant under Pete Carroll. But, again, before that, under Ted Tollner and Hackett, I mean, they were winning 7 games a year. I mean, they had to be good for 20 years. So it just goes to show that for college football, even the powers, they have their down years. And you're not granted anything. So, and that's why we love college football. Because there's chaos every year.
Is that why you have the Big Ten so wide open?
Well, I think that with the Big Ten, Urban Meyer, really from the get-go, just built something just so dominant with spectacular recruiting, and they got a ton of speed in the Big Ten. I mean, you don't see that a lot. But, again, they do return J.T. Barrett, and he's the sole guy there. But the thing is with the Big Ten is that, or with Ohio State, they don't return anybody. So you're relying on guys we don't really know, a lot of unproven guys. Now, could they go out and make the college football playoffs? Absolutely. But I like this Michigan team. They don't have a quarterback. They got to replace Rudock. But we love what Harbaugh is doing. He is bringing some serious swagger to Ann Arbor, which is awesome.
Isn't that great?
And, well, the swagger we needed. There were few things more fun than Steve Spurrier at Florida just trolling and trashing Tennessee any chance he got. It was spectacular. So we need more guys that are willing to play heel and to say, we're going to take on the world and we're going to win. And I think you have that mindset with Michigan. I think that they're coming on, and I think this could be the year where you can see big things from the Wolverines. And even, you know what, Antonio, Michigan State's a team that even though they're replacing Connor Cook and they're replacing other guys, they're still going to play physical defense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. And they're a team that Michigan or Ohio State cannot sleep on. But the champion of that conference is going to come out of the East Division. But I'm liking Michigan this year. I think Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines, Peppers is awesome. And I think they're going to get some good quarterback play. And I think they're a team that's poised to really break through for a Michigan team that really hasn't done that. And again, Michigan's another powerhouse program that's had their down years.
That's crazy. You mentioned this David Harbaugh. And I love the fact that they're both ex-NFL that like have dealt with the massive egos of the National Football League and are just bringing that, because as they say, college football is the new semi-pro. Especially the way they're grooming all these fools. Who's your dark horse though to make the playoffs? Because we mentioned Notre Dame. With still no set conference. If they go to the ACC next year, is that when this whole thing starts?
It's perhaps with Notre Dame, we know they're very anti-conference for football because they love the Notre Dame deal, and they love the fact that they protect their independence, and they're a part of the college football playoff in the sense that they're not a group of 5 team. They're considered alongside the power conferences, so they really don't need to get into a conference. Frankly, I'm not sold that they will. I think that unless we're getting to the point where we have like the 4-16 teams and it really just dominate college football, almost like a new world order. But until we get to that point, I don't see them seeing any need to jump into the conference. They can schedule all these games, they do all the primetime games on neutral sites, which is totally random. With Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame, they got Malik Zaire, they got Deshaun Kaiser, who stuff that was really good last year. All that team really needs to do is play strong defense. They need to improve their front 7. But Brian Kelly is built, we talk about Notre Dame, and I think some Notre Dame fans are restless because Notre Dame is now a program that's winning 8, 9, 10 games a year. But that's probably, been their ceiling. But I think they're definitely a team, particularly if they win out with their schedule, to get to the playoff. But I think if you see a lot of chaos in college football, a lot of 2-loss teams, and you got the Houston Cougars, if they dominate the American Athletic Conference, which would not be easy, because that's out of nowhere, really. I mean, that was like the scrap heap of college football. And now because Temple's a good club, South Florida is really good, Navy's always in the mix, Memphis has now built itself up. But if Houston dominates that conference, wins that, we saw what they can do last year against Florida State in the New Year's Day 6, I believe that was in the Peach Bowl. But they're a team that are good enough if they catch some breaks in the schedule. And it starts with them playing Oklahoma at home, which is awesome. If they win that game, they win out, I think they're very well have a good case to get to the playoff, which would be crazy to see a group of 5 team in there. But this team is going to be very fun to watch because we love Tom Herman. And we love him because he is absolutely out of his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. A good friend of mine actually coaches at Highland Park High School. He goes to like coaching camps over the summer. And he usually goes to Houston because he has friends in Houston. But he always goes to sort of watch the Houston practices. And Harmon runs it like so militant. It is insane considering the amount of talent and type of people he has to coach. Get those guys on the same page is crazy. But first weekend of games, so looking forward to it. Looking forward to the great matchups. So we definitely agreed. I definitely agree. I think it's worth the playoff risk. Is the undefeated team? Is that with now we're seeing more of these like big Showtime games. Is the undefeated season slowly dying? That we're so satisfied with like a 2-loss team going to the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't know because we could still perhaps see a team going into the playoff if a team just really becomes it's a lot of times it's the combination of either a truly dominant team or a really good team that plays in a garbage or a down year for a conference. So I think you're definitely onto something, especially because now the playoff says, all right, we don't want the power conferences, the schools to play against, the FCS teams. And they want them to schedule games against other Power 5 schools. And you're only going to see more of that, which is more potential, potential trap doors in these schedules because you're playing so many teams that are so good. Even if like in the mid-tier, if you're playing like somebody like, from the SEC. If you're playing a Florida or a Georgia, which are really pretty good teams, but maybe not, or upper high echelon. Yeah, or a good example, Arkansas. You're it could be a top 5 team. You play a team like Arkansas, and all of a sudden it could be a dogfight. So I think I wouldn't say it's necessarily dead, but I think like you saw with Ohio State when they won out, it was a combination of the conference not very, and they were a really good club, and they had plenty of talent, and they had the Urban Meyer swagger. So I don't think it's necessarily dead, but I think it's going to become more and more of a rarity, and where we'll see it, we'll be judging how good of a loss a one-loss team has.
Which I'm excited about that. I'm glad like basketball. When Kentucky went undefeated, people started like fact-checking themselves and backdating them that this hasn't happened since the Running Rebels of UNLV. Or like Indiana, like when Bobby Knight coached it. So for us, it's become like such an anomaly. It's become such of an occurrence for us that we're going to see an undefeated team. It still gets some weird adjustments, like looking at like a 2-loss team being crowned our national champion, because we're so used to the sort of corrupt BCS that it's such a joke. That's college football. Let's go to fan mail now. Shout out to college football. Great games. Of course, we didn't even mention the other games coming up in those weeks after. Texas A&M plays UCLA. Arkansas is TCU, September 10th. I love the topic we talked about with the SEC wanting to be the alpha dog. Very, very, very perfect with the theme of today's show of the best aren't afraid to continue to dominate and be the better, which is fantastic. And, of course, you do have some fan mail. Fans, of course, you can go to thefanaticradio@gmail.com. Submit your questions to Flo and I if you so please. First one is a generic question, being that this week Cal Berkeley plays Hawaii in Sydney for a college football game. Fair or foul?
With the great Alan Bestwick on the call, fun fact. I think we're going to start seeing more. I don't really have a problem with it. It's so early in the year. It's like they're playing this on, and it's technically a week 1 game, which I'm not happy about because, like, I don't know whether when I do my week 1 picks, do I pick all the games before this Cal game? I think I'll just pick the Cal Hawaii game, which is like an irrelevant game. I mean, Cal's going to be, barely a bowl team, and if that, and Hawaii is just a mess. No more June Jones there. But with I don't have a problem with it. It's too it's not a big game.
Wait, did you say Jim Jones? Jim Jones, he went back to Hawaii?
No, I'm saying it's not Jim Jones because that's when Hawaii was like great when they had that ridiculous Sugar Bowl team which then got demolished.
Yeah. Cole Brennan was the quarterback.
That's right. Oh, yeah. We
should have won the Heisman. I don't know why he didn't.
Yeah, well, I think...
At every stat known to man. He's like a video game dream.
Yeah, that's right. That June Jones offense,
Went to coach SMU for like a half second.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well. But we love that guy. But, yeah, I mean, I'll say fair. I think it's kind of cool seeing a game play in Sydney. Doesn't really hurt anybody. It's out of the schedule enough to where it's not going to kill them travel-wise. So I got no problem with it.
I don't know. I call foul because we saw Notre Dame play – who was it? They played someone in Ireland like 2 years ago.
Was it Navy?
I think so. Or Navy or Army, one of the two. And Notre Dame's season was like a disaster. I don't know. College football is like our thing. It's like a U.S. thing. And as soon as you start going, as soon as college sports start going international is kind of where I draw the line. Because it's like, is it really used, it's a sport that like very few around the world can actually play or choose to play. Because I think there's $1 million, especially watching the Olympics, there's $1 million other sports that the youth of the world has to choose from. I don't think football is the thing. We saw that running back from the San Francisco 49ers go back to Australia because he hated the coaching staff. because they like doubted his abilities or something like that. I don't know. I call foul. It's like stuff like this always ends up bad. You see college basketball go on these trips. The famous Georgetown fighting and teams from China. Yeah, they got that massive brawl. Completely made an embarrassment. It's just more chances for us. It's more chances for a Ryan Lochte, where you got college kids abroad just free from discipline, tarnishing our global image on the world. I don't know. Football, it's like an American thing. You don't see it's like the reason why NFL Europe doesn't work, or when the NFL had the World Bowl and played games in Tokyo. I don't like it, especially when you give me two crappy teams. It's like people saying, why doesn't the NBA All-Star Game go to Paris, or why will there never be a Super Bowl in London? It's the reason I just said. It's like the football. It's a rare sport that just stay localized. As soon as you start to grow it, people just get all. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't like Cal. I don't like Hawaii. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to wait for is Fowler and Herbstreit returning to do the primetime games?
That's correct.
And then is this the year Nestler takes over for Vern Lundquist?
No, Nestler is going to do the secondary games.
So he's still with Todd Blackledge for the number 2 ESPN game.
No, yeah, Nestler. I meant he's the number 2 CBS guy.
He's with CBS.
He is with CBS. He's going to be doing I think he's going to do a few NFL games this year, but he's going to basically just do the secondary SEC game when they have a doubleheader. He'll do the Sun Bowl, and then next year he replaces Vern Lundquist.
So with this weird year, we got Chris Fowler, Kurt Herbstreit doing the primetime game. No Heather Cox, who made her NBC debut at the Olympics.
That's right. Well, don't forget, she has been doing the Olympics the past several Olympics for NBC as kind of I guess, a freelance thing. But, yeah, that was her debut as a full-timer.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who does the number 2 games for ESPN now? Sean McDonough?
Well, it's no, it is going to be Joe Tessitore with Todd Blackledge.
That's going to be really weird. I like Brad Nestler.
So did I. But now Brad Nestler, and then Sean McDonough is on Monday Night Football, so he got replaced.
That's right. That is wild. What about Dave Pasch? Is he going to be doing the West Coast games?
I think he's still going to be doing I still think he's doing that noon ESPN game, but I believe he's working now with your boy Greg McElroy. But replacing Sean McDonough with alongside it's going to be Greasy because Chris Spielman went to ESPN. It's going to be your boy Steve Levy.
Steve Levy's going to be a staple on Saturday afternoons?
That's correct.
That is outrageous. I think I might be watching more games on mute this year than ever. Needless to say, another question. This is dovetailing off our previous discussion of NFL's most hated outlaw, but also features your boy Flo. Does the NFL have every right to go after these guys with PEDs? Mentioning your boy Clay Matthews, Julius Peppers, James Harrison. If so, how do you think these sort of talks, these meetings will go?
I think it's. I'm really, I'm not fully certain what to expect for this, but it's one of those things where, and the problem I have with the NFL is they do these. Now I'll mention I'm a little biased because both these guys play for my favorite football team, but the problem with these NFL investigations is that first off they leak out like crazy. They have no control, and the NFL has shown that it cannot investigate its way out of a paper bag without everything ending up in court and the court saying that Goodell was totally out of line or whoever was the league was out of line and so on and so forth. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how this meeting goes. I don't know what the evidence is, what's going on against this, because, this goes back to the Al Jazeera report, and Peyton Manning was involved in that, but he also played played ball at the league. He cooperated with them. And from what I'll be honest, I haven't followed the story as closely as others have, but assuming that both of these guys have played along with the NFL, cooperated with the investigation, I think it'll probably come to a close, and maybe you won't see anything out of it.
But with those three guys, I think James Harrison's the one that's going to go down swinging. I mean, he should be out of the league to begin with. One, he's old. Two, the Steelers are better off without him. Three, he's a cancer to the league. Because all he does is complain and bitch and moan, and I cannot stand that. It's because you are, first and foremost, an employee of the team and the league. For him just to, go off and spout his mouth off like that, it's like, dude, your team's... come talk to me when you're a Super Bowl champion. But that's enough NFL talk. We'll talk about them next week. When the National Football League kicks off... there was a Tim Tebow question. Just it's not even a question for the masses. It's just 20 teams are actually attending Tebow's workout August 30th, but that'll be a room for improvement with our NFL discussion. And it's we'll go to the best part of the show: thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yes.
Would you care to lead us off?
I do not care to lead us off. So, thumbs. We're going to start up. Once again, I'm very prepared for this as always. Thumbs up is going to go to myself and Tyrese. We just found out we got ourselves a new digs.
Yes!
Officially as of September 1, but we're going to kind of float around here, the current place in Arlington, and the new spot in Trinidad, up by Gallaudet, which is great. And it's great because we actually were interested in a few spots in that area. But yeah, in a few weeks we'll be moving back to the DSC, back inside, even further inside the riffraff of Washington, D.C., so that should be great. Especially as we get closer to the election and all the politics and all the riffraff heat up.
Are you Metro accessible?
I am not that far from work, actually. Not that far from. It's probably about maybe a little less than a mile from Union Station. There's buses up the wazoo, and they now have the streetcar on H Street, and which is so unnecessary because there's a bunch of buses anyway, so they're just getting away, and it's free, but that's cool. So there's that. Thumbs up to Chick-fil-A, actually. We were checking out a spot actually up by AU, and there's a new Chick-fil-A that opened up where the old Payless is, next to Panera and Starbucks in Tenleytown. So, and I went there, and the first time I got a frosted lemonade. I don't know if you've ever had that at Chick-fil-A. It is so good. It's my new favorite thing, specifically at Chick-fil-A. We got to love that. Thumbs up to that, but thumbs down to the fact that this Chick-fil-A came after we left.
Yep.
And then District Taco apparently came to Tenleytown after we left. And also thumbs down to AU for the fact that East Campus, which I thought was going to be finished by now, finished for the students, is not finished. It doesn't look finished at all.
Is that the one? Is that the one that took over Nebraska parking lot?
Yes, it did. And
East Campus,
the buildings look like they're good to go, but you still have pipes coming out of the building, and it's all dirt around it. Nothing's paved, and it's not ready at all.
Is anything up? Are there any buildings?
I mean, the buildings are up. The buildings are constructed.
Look nice.
Just everything else, and they do look nice. It kind of matches the aesthetic with SIS, MGC, all that action. So it fits in, but. I mean, come on. AU, Nebraska took forever. I mean, Cassell was took way long. So I don't know what the hell AU Construction is doing. Whoever they're hiring is doing a terrible job. But yeah, that's my thumbs down. Also, I'm going to give another thumbs up. I don't know if you've had this Crystal Pepsi Redux action, but Pepsi brought back Crystal Pepsi, which is it's just Pepsi, but it's clear. It tastes like Pepsi, but it's clear. So I don't know what the hell's going on with it. Apparently it was a thing in the early 90s, but they brought it back. I don't know why, but nostalgia, I guess, is great. So Crystal Pepsi, quality product. We love it.
I want to try it now. I saw it in the store. How it's green. It looks clear. I don't know. I usually feel afraid to drink those kind of things. Dang it! I had some of mine written down, and I completely forgot the piece of paper. So thumbs down to myself on that. Well, so first of all, thumbs down. I kind of mentioned this at the top of the show, but thumbs down to NBC for blaming millennials for the lack of ratings, bad ratings for the Olympics. I hate how that's like the traditional scapegoat. I'm not a fan of it. Just for the mere fact that it's more of you, the exec's fault, as opposed to the lack of 18 to 30-year-olds watching it. It's like, we'll watch it as sports fans, and people will tune in just because of the uniqueness. But when you don't show uniqueness is when you lose interest. Or it's when you, rely on social media too much. Because at the end of the day, we've seen it with the big three of sports: live events rules television. We love live. Hence why, NBC did live productions of Peter Pan and The Wit. So one thing that fixed Tokyo is just try to make more things live, but if not, make prime time entertaining. Less with the interviews, because you could always just encourage them to watch them online, or the marquee interviews at certain times. But make certain events, show more events. I'm very so thumbs down to the fact that they made track sort of like second banana, other than just Usain Bolt. When Americans won medals in the 800, the marathon, we never do that. The 1500, the women's 1500, the relays, just go on harder, just please. Also, please hire us, because we could actually do some good and bring some work. Thumbs up to college football season. I hate the playoff, but I love just good college football games. I'm glad that the college football playoff has created this sort of, new world order in the CFB, because you get these great marquee matchups at the start of the year. I'm very interested to see how Ole Miss is going to do. And the reason why I say Ole Miss is one of my good family friends is a diehard Ole Miss alum, Booster. So he thinks Ole Miss has a championship season every year. Even though last year was probably the best team they ever had, dating back Archie Manning. They got Jim Kelly's nephew, who's going into his final season. No idea how good the Landshark defense is going to do, but and the receiving core is all gone. So I doubt they're going to be as good as they were last year. Like Robert Kimdiche. But they play Florida State, who it's like games like that could go either way. LSU going up to Lambeau, back at Jerry, just completely dominated the cuff. Football comes up to NASCAR, because quick story about that. As always, you got the people that try to sneak into the movies, if you're like 10 years old or younger. My uncle actually tried to drape my cousin, who is 2 years older than I am, over his shoulder to try to sneak into a movie. And the movie theater people were like, wait a minute, this kid's got hair on his legs. He is not 10 years old. So shout out to them. Thumbs down to Maggie Hendricks. I'm calling her out. She's a reporter for USA Today, but not. She writes stuff for The Win. Came out with this garbage article about the top 5 athletes to look forward to Tokyo 2020, and they had it's complete blog type style of writing, where it's like just took the high road on everything. Had like Lori Hernandez. What's her name? The 16 Stephanie McLaughlin, 16-year-old who failed to make the finals in the 400 hurdles. So basically just took all the young people and put Jaden Cox, the guy who got bronze in the 84 weight category in wrestling, as a guy. And, of course, I immediately went on the attack via Twitter, saying she's a hack and a talentless writer because she left off Kyle Snyder, who is 21 years old, going to his junior year at Ohio State, first athlete ever to win World Championship, NCAA Pan Am World Championship, NCAA Championship, and Olympic gold medals in a span of a calendar year, and she did not think twice about that he is going to continue to do well and win golds in Tokyo 2020. So thumbs down to the hacks that covered the Olympics and try to claim they know the best when they are as least informed as we are. And if I can go on a social media rant, take a page out of your book. What was the fact of all? So I'm happy, I'm sad the Olympics are over, but I'm also happy the Olympics are over because the people that were down there, good friend of mine, acquaintance, enemies of mine, just completely blew up my timeline and news feed of all the same photo. As you mentioned, as you got into a war with the same photo.
Yes.
People had the same, with the arms outstretched by Christ the Redeemer, the Sugarloaf Mountains.
Gosh.
The any venue photos which I could see. I'm not saying Twitter's dead because it's not. But,
yeah.
But, in a world where we encourage live events and things are so easily accessible, I think tweeting pictures is dead. Because if in our generation, if it's not video, the old saying was pics or it didn't happen. It's now video, and it's like, what's the point of NBC having a Twitter if they're just going to take a picture of Kerry Walsh and April Ross in the sand at a game I could easily just watch? I don't need a picture because a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video, you could speak 1,001 in a video. So it's like, give me highlights, give me video, give me interviews, or you are dead to me. And so thumbs down to all those USOC or random people that went to Rio, I don't know why, for just giving me pictures or random snap stories of something I can just, Google or watch on YouTube. I want behind the scenes stuff. We on this show give you behind the scenes stuff. We give you great insight. We speak our minds. We don't just post random photos. Because the photo has to be cool. Otherwise, as I said, you are dead to me. Yeah. Also, thumbs down to Sports Illustrated for putting Phelps, Ledecky, and Biles on their previous cover before this NFL cover. Because I feel like the more that mainstream media does that, the more it pushes people away from other great athletes, which I don't understand. But yeah, that's my rant, or thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm sure I had more, but for those of you I missed, you're off the hook for now. But I do also want to give a shout out to AU, American University, with Matt Centrowitz winning. Centro putting AU on the map. As always, right. I proceeded to wear my polo the next day. And a lot of people recognize it. They're like, hey, Olympics. And I'm like, yeah, I actually went there. So I also want to give a shout out to the Paralympics, as that is where I am venturing down this weekend to Houston.
Oh, great.
To help out with team processing for the U.S. Paralympics, which start, I believe, September 7th, so after Labor Day. Yeah, I'm going to get some free swag, hopefully, wheel and deal and schmooze and see some good friends that I haven't seen in quite some time. I also want to give a shout out to the volleyball programs, men's, women's, winning bronze medals. But yeah, thumbs up to the U.S. doing well in the Olympics. Thumbs down for Brazil as a host. The fact that crime actually was it'd be really sad because it's fixable. Hopefully the IOC learned a lesson from this. They got some time to think about it. Also, a year from September 17th, I'll probably mention this again when September rolls around. We're a year out to seeing who wins the bid for the 2024 games. looking at it, I want LA to win it, but I don't want LA to win it. Just because, well, one, everyone at the USC will get fired if they don't. So good, more jobs for us. But on the flip side, there's a lot of good people I know that work at the LA 24 bid that, one, they were down in Rio. I have no idea why. Some of them were schmoozing, but some of them were just there to fill space. I don't know. And the fact that they didn't clean the water up and that these venues will go unused forever makes me really sad. But that's what the IOC gets from, being absolute scumbags.
That's right.
And adding, surfing to the Olympics, which is an absolute joke. Any final words? Any final shout-outs?
Well, we're going to give a shout-out to NBC because we just spent a whole show just trashing them and all their nonsense.
Just their Olympics coverage. I mean, anything else they've done, they've produced great people like your boy Russert, AE's own Dave Gregory's gone. Meet the press.
That's right.
Brian Williams.
Yeah. So we'll give a shout out. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be shouting out NBC because I work for a competitor, but whatever. NBC, you're not that bad. We still love the peacock. We still love the chimes. Da-da-da. I mean, who doesn't love that?
The Olympic theme. I actually do want to mention before we end.
Please.
Yes, because we haven't talked politics for a while on this. Because I usually ask you but what were your thoughts on Trump? Basically going to a rally in Detroit and basically giving a call to action to the African American population, saying, "What the hell do you have to lose?"
I know. I love that his pitch basically comes down to, hey, you know what? Why not? I mean, why not Trump? I think it was still one of the best things is that he makes a speech, and I do give him credit. He is maybe inartfully, but he's putting in some effort more than other Republicans have done in the past. But he's making these pitches, and he did the first one in this Michigan small town of this Michigan called Timondale. It's 93% white. It's he had another one outside of Milwaukee. The crowd was all white in an all-white suburb. So he keeps on making these pitches. First off, he's going into places he has a rally. He had a rally tonight in Mississippi. He had a rally earlier in Texas, or last night was in Texas, which makes absolutely no sense. But I mean, you know what? If we want to try to pitch, to the African American, to the Latino vote, that's a good thing, and Republicans should be doing that. But go to them and do that. I mean, don't be I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's way down in the polls. There's still time, I guess, for him to rally. But again, I've learned to stop predicting what's going to happen with Trump because it's just a fool's errand, frankly. So who the hell knows what's going to end up happening? The best is when he's like, you know what, you give Trump a chance, okay, and in 4 years I'm going to win with 95% of the African American vote. On Fox, we had Mike Pence on, and Mike Pence, whenever the host asked that, he just starts laughing. I mean, it's an insane comment, but, we love Trump. So entertaining. And, yeah.
Good impression of him. I love how he's I have words, I have the best words. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
On that note, that'll do it for this week. NFL show is coming up next week.
Mm-hmm.
Labor Day show after, I guess, rolling into Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
No. That happens. So we'll do some NFL starts football. And Von Miller appearing in these awful Madden commercials. With him dancing the Biebs is sorry, so...
By the way, I need to say something. Have you seen, I forget who it's for, maybe New Balance, but have you seen this Draymond Green, Horace Grant, and who is it, Michelle Williams, who does these child commercials? It's so, I don't know what the hell they're promoting. I think it's one of the shoe companies, I think.
I'm sure it is.
But it's you need to watch it, and the people need to go out and watch it. It's just him chilling with with the horse granny you can't recognize without the goggles. And then Michelle Williams comes up out of nowhere. It's really fantastic. You gotta check it out.
Michelle Williams, the most unfamous member of Destiny's Child.
Exactly.
All right, we'll definitely check it out. Encourage the fans to look at that as well. I'm sure we'll get some emails about that next week. Once again, you can email us at thefanaticradio@gmail.com. Go to facebook.com/fanaticradio or blogtalkradio.com/fanaticradio to listen to the podcast. Or even Fanatic Radio's YouTube channel if I want to keep this up. I don't know yet. I'm still on the fence about it. I've seen the world of our faces. But also, check out Bflo360.com for Flo's college football predictions. If you want full analysis of conference by conference, his bull picks with the great logos,
Yes.
and future episodes of the Bflo 360 podcast, go to that one. Go to that site. Podcast on iTunes, BTR, Facebook. For all of us, for the notorious Ben Florence, I'm Mike Gardner. We'll catch you next week with more shenanigans. But this has been Fanatic Radio, the Millennial Show. Until next time, so long, everyone.